If my house was haunted, I think I would know.
Welcome back to the 31 Nights of Fright overview of the Fear Itself series. Today we kick things off with the episode entitled The Spirit Box. Now this is an interesting episode, but ends up falling victim to its own clichéness. Think of this episode as an old campfire ghost story, but not as good. Well, at least with those, you have a scary setting to help with the fear factor. It's Halloween night and two friends, Shelby and Becca, created a homemade Ouija board called a Spirit Box. During the duration of the game, they receive a message from a deceased classmate, Emily, who died a few years ago from a suicide. The message reveals that she had in fact been murdered. Both girls start looking into her death, attempting to find clues to her death. Both girls soon have encounters with Emily's ghost. Shelby steals the file on Emily's death from her father's office, finding that she had been drugged prior to her death. Soon after, Shelby and Becca attempt to make contact with Emily several times, getting a message of their gym teacher's name. They believe it is a message signifying who the killer is. Shelby breaks into his house, finding the drugs found in Emily's body in his bedside drawer. Moments before he arrives home, he finds Shelby, who subtly comes on to him, stating that she can't stop thinking about him. He gives in to her rouse, and just as he advances on her, he is shot by a taser Becca had given to her earlier. He falls back onto the stairs, breaking his neck. Becca comes in soon after, stating that she had called the police and that Shelby should wait outside. She stands there watching as the teacher dies. Several months later, Shelby is seen visiting Emily's grave, discovering that the nameplate is a fake, covering someone else's grave. She calls Becca, who is now living in Taiwan, and relates to her discovery, only for Becca to remain unmoved and to relay that she remembered that Emily was actually cremated. Shelby then realizes that Becca had been behind everything, from the Ouija board messages to drugs within the teacher's dresser to Emily's death. The spiritual appearances of Emily, however, Becca denies, and states that it was just Shelby's imagination. Shelby then questions why Becca did all of this, and a flashback is shown in which Becca witnesses their gym teacher flirting with Emily, apparently hurt by it. She then states that he was hers first before dropping the phone, starting her car and attempting to open the garage door. The door closes, as well as the car door locks, trapping her inside. The engine starts, fumes enter the car, and slowly it starts choking her to death. She turns, finding Emily's ghost snarling at her. Becca dies as the fumes envelop her, Emily's ghost closing in on her. The episode itself isn't really bad so much as it's simply too predictable, not to mention that its ending is anticlimactic, and it closes out in a seemingly lazy fashion. The next episode takes a departure from the classic themes and brings us something along the lines of psychological terror, using the wild imaginations of people and the terrors of reality. This episode is entitled In Sickness and in Health. Directed by John Landis, this episode tells the story of Samantha, a bride-to-be who gets a special letter from an unknown woman on her wedding day. When she opens the letter, it reads that the person she is about to marry is in fact the serial killer. Talk about a strong start to an episode and a bad start to a wedding day. From there, the episode makes great use of the common day paranoia we all face. There's no evidence of anything, yet this letter manages to make Samantha delusional as time goes by. Common structures bring fright, her fiancé is no longer to be trusted, and everything she knows seems to be like it's out to get her. And it all stems from one little note backed up by not a single bit of evidence. We've all been in similar situations, and this is perfectly displaying how paranoid we can become from the most simplest of things. During Samantha's running around trying to solve the mystery of the note, we get treated to a different use of fear via realistic imagery. This episode mainly takes place in a church, and nothing is really altered in the church, yet it seems scary, and as John Landis would point out, they have always looked scary without the need of alteration. The ending of the episode pays a nice homage to the work of Alfred Hitchcock, although it lacks explanation for some parts of the story, creating plot holes. But aside from that, this is a well-told story and a well-acted story with an interesting take on suspense. Join us next time as we further dive into fear itself.